Every month, up to 90% of women experience at least one premenstrual symptom. Mood swings, bloating, cravings, fatigue, anxiety, symptoms that can derail an entire week. But here's what most women are never told. These symptoms aren't normal in the sense that you have to accept them. Research shows they're signals of hormonal imbalance that can be addressed through specific, evidence-based strategies. The same applies to perimenopause. Women between 35 and 55 often experience years of symptoms, irregular cycles, hot flashes, brain fog, sleep disruption, before they understand what's happening hormonally. In this video, we are going to see what drives these hormonal shifts, what the research says actually works to restore balance, and what most conventional approaches get wrong. Research shows this pattern is more consistent across populations than previously understood. The research base here is substantial. Studies from the New England Journal of Medicine, Gynecological Endocrinology, and the Journal of Nutrition have mapped the mechanisms behind PMS, perimenopausal symptoms, and effective interventions. We now understand the hormonal fluctuations involved at the molecular level, and that gives us very specific targets for natural intervention. Research shows this pattern is more consistent across populations than previously understood. There's a persistent myth that hormonal symptoms in women are primarily psychological, stress, attitude, or sensitivity. The research completely dismantles this. We know from endocrinology that PMS symptoms correlate directly with progesterone metabolites acting on GABA receptors in the brain. This is neurochemistry, not psychology. The symptoms are real, measurable, and mechanistically understood. Research shows this pattern is more consistent across populations than previously understood. The most underappreciated driver of female hormonal imbalance is cortisol, the stress hormone. Cortisol and progesterone compete for the same receptor sites. Chronic stress essentially hijacks your hormonal system, suppressing progesterone and amplifying estrogen dominance. This produces a cluster of symptoms: heavy periods, PMS intensification, fatigue, weight gain around the midsection, and mood instability. Research shows this pattern is more consistent across populations than previously understood. Perimenopause catches most women off guard because it begins up to 10 years before the last period. During this time, estrogen levels fluctuate erratically rather than declining linearly. Think of it like a light dimmer that surges and drops randomly instead of smoothly lowering. Those surges are what produce hot flashes, night sweats, and mood instability. Understanding this makes the interventions make more sense. A 2003 study published in Gynecological Endocrinology established that the luteal phase metabolite of progesterone, allopregnanolone, modulates GABA-A receptors in the brain. Women with severe PMS show abnormal sensitivity to this compound. This is why symptoms cluster in the 2 weeks before a period. It also explains why interventions that support progesterone production and stress reduction are specifically effective for PMS. Magnesium deficiency is documented in a significant portion of women with PMS. Research shows that supplementing with 360 milligrams of magnesium daily during the luteal phase reduces mood-related PMS symptoms by 40%. Magnesium supports progesterone synthesis, reduces cortisol reactivity, and modulates the same GABA pathways affected during PMS. It's one of the most cost-effective and research-backed interventions available. Research shows this pattern is more consistent across populations than previously understood. For perimenopausal symptoms, phytoestrogens, plant compounds that weakly mimic estrogen, have solid research support. Studies show soy isoflavones reduce hot flash frequency by 20 to 45%. Flaxseed lignans show similar effects with additional cardiovascular benefits. These compounds bind estrogen receptors with lower affinity than the body's own estrogen, helping to smooth out the erratic surges that drive symptoms. Exercise is consistently one of the most powerful hormone balancing interventions in the literature. Resistance training raises progesterone levels in reproductive age women by supporting LH pulse frequency. It also reduces cortisol chronically, breaking the estrogen dominant cycle. Aerobic exercise specifically helps with hot flashes and sleep disruption in perimenopause by improving thermoregulatory control. Research shows this pattern is more consistent across populations than previously understood. The hormonal balance framework for women rests on 4 pillars: stress reduction, nutritional support, movement, and sleep. These aren't lifestyle platitudes. Each one targets a specific hormonal mechanism. Cortisol management directly preserves progesterone. Specific nutrients support synthesis and clearance. Exercise regulates LH and insulin. Sleep is when most sex hormone synthesis and repair occurs. Research shows this pattern is more consistent across populations than previously understood. The timeline for hormonal rebalancing through lifestyle is not overnight. Research shows meaningful changes in PMS symptoms within 1 to 2 menstrual cycles of consistent intervention. Perimenopausal symptom improvement with phytoestrogens and exercise typically becomes noticeable by weeks 8 to 12. The key is tracking symptoms across cycles to see the trend. Individual days are misleading. Research shows this pattern is more consistent across populations than previously understood. Here's the evidence-based daily and cycle-based practice for hormonal balance. Daily, prioritize 7 to 9 hours of sleep, limit alcohol, which directly disrupts estrogen clearance, and include cruciferous vegetables that support liver detoxification of estrogen metabolites. During the luteal phase, increase magnesium-rich foods or supplement with 300 to 400 milligrams of magnesium glycinate. Research shows this pattern is more consistent across populations than previously understood. The personalized approach depends on your hormonal phase and primary symptoms. If you're dealing with PMS, especially mood symptoms and bloating, then target magnesium, B6, and cortisol management in your luteal phase. If you're in perimenopause with hot flashes, then phytoestrogens from food or standardized supplements combined with aerobic exercise is your strongest evidence-based combination. Research shows this pattern is more consistent across populations than previously understood. The research makes one thing clear: hormonal symptoms in women are not inevitable, and they are not primarily psychological. They are biological signals driven by cortisol competition, estrogen metabolism, and GABA sensitivity, all of which respond to specific, well-studied interventions. The women who achieve balance aren't doing something exotic. They're targeting the right mechanisms consistently. Research shows this pattern is more consistent across populations than previously understood. If there's one thing the research keeps confirming, it's that your hormonal health is far more responsive to lifestyle than most people believe. The symptoms are real. The mechanisms are understood. And the interventions that target those mechanisms are accessible to almost everyone. Research shows this pattern is more consistent across populations than previously understood. Studies find these effects are measurable and reproducible across independent research groups.